Wi-Fi has been going by as well. Leave that up there for a second, although I think most people have it. I want to thank our annual and in-kind sponsors, Syncade MBA and Luther Automotive Dealers. Let's give them a warm round of applause, please. As well as Stanley's Northeast Barroom. They're our bacon sponsor. Verizon, 514 Studios, Skelly Video Productions, Sterling Cross Group, Megan MSP, and Money Paws Cheesecake. Please give them a round of applause. We could not do this without their support, and they help bring your ticket costs down really low and support the work that we do, and we thank them for that. Syncade's last chance to get your Master's Certificate in Integrated Marketing Communications deadline is August 1st. Check that out online. We are also streaming this morning. You can check Twitter for the link. And I'm going to bring up Kay really quick to talk about Micro Expo. Did I get that right?
You did. You're doing well. Thank you. What? That's what I figured. Okay, if you're a business, a startup, a co-op, or a nonprofit, and particularly if you've got less than 10 people, or more magically, if you're a fourth of one, you're a micro. And there are 27 million micros. So what do you do if you've got one person in the company? Where do you go to network besides social media breakfast? Well, we're having an expo Saturday from 10 to 3. It's near the University of Minnesota. And at that point, you'll be able to meet other people who also have micro businesses. We've got exhibits, speakers, drawings, business card exchange, one of my favorites, headshots, and a grand prize. Again, it's Saturday from 10 to 3. And I just happen to have free tickets to give away to a lucky few people. Molly, what should they do to get their name on the list for free tickets? Okay, good enough. And by the way, since it's a limited number, get to me quickly, okay, so they're not all gone. And if you have more questions and you'd like to know more about it, one guy I saw at Mini Demo went home and signed up to be an exhibitor. So that worked out better than I ever could have imagined. So if you want further information, see my Twitter account, which is the ever-famous Kay Lavoie. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Is Tammy here? I didn't see Tammy come in. Tammy is also owner of Money Paws Cheesecake. They are having their 25th anniversary and celebration of National Cheesecake Day on Monday at Money Paws Cheesecake. So we are tweeting information about that if that is interesting to you, and it should be, because who doesn't like amazing cheesecake? Show of hands, who's here for the first time? Wonderful. We hope it's not your last. We've been getting together like this every month, connecting people and ideas over coffee and bacon since 2008. You can visit smbmsp.org and sign up for our mail list, get updates on upcoming events, and again, come back and join us. We welcome you. Next month's event, this is actually really exciting, is going to be right here on the 23rd. It's a panel, social media for parents, featuring a number of people that you may know in the social space in town. Social media can feel like the Wild West sometimes, interspersed with business as usual. There can be violent threats, explicit content, and adults behaving badly. Mostly, we accept this as par for the course until we remember that kids are using these platforms too. What kind of impact is social media having on them? Join us for this panel discussion with parents, for the first generation in history figuring out how to teach their kids to gracefully navigate social media with their reputations intact. So it should be a great event. Registration will be open tomorrow, and recommend that you come back and join us for that. Should be a great event. And okay, you could switch over now. So now we're going to bring up our first case study presenter. This is not his first time on our stage, and we always hear such wonderful things when Ryan is up here sharing what he does. Ryan's social media manager with over 7 years experience in the field. He's known for implementing highly innovative social media platforms into rapidly changing environments. He's recently joined Be The Match, where he's working to elevate their social media strategy to help change the lives of patients battling blood cancer and blood diseases. Please welcome Ryan Pena.
Hey, good morning. How's everyone doing? Yeah? Thank you, Michael, so much, and thanks to the team for always putting on such amazing events. I said this like 2 years ago when I presented last, because they needed to have 2 years before they could put up with me again, but 2 years ago I was talking about how I've attended social media breakfast probably since like 8 years ago I started attending, so this has been near and dear to my heart. I love this event, so it's great to be up here and giving back to the community as well. Okay, so I think we have 40 minutes, right, to go over everything. So yeah, we're going to be talking about this. I will tell you right off the bat, the title is valid, but it's also somewhat clickbait. So we all kind of know about that, but point being is there's more to this story than just a tweet. And so you're going to find out more about that. But before I get into what you can expect and what we're going to talk about, I think this is the only time that I can do this is when we're at social media events where I can just plug if the clicker works. Hold on one second. Just a second. Hold on. Some clicking problems. There we go, where I can plug the handles. So, because we're at a social media event, I'm assuming you're probably going to be tweeting or Instagramming, and if you're not, you probably want to leave, because that's what you do here. But if you are, these are the handles of what I'm going to be talking about. One of them, unfortunately, is myself, but I have been a part of this case study. So, again, it went away now. Why did it go away? So this clicker isn't working, you guys. I don't know. All right, so we'll just. All right. So anyway, now that we have that out of the way, this is basically what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 4 different stages. The first half of this conversation is going to be essentially story time. We're going to set up the stage, let you know what happened, how it happened, and then the second half we're going to talk about kind of a recap and strategy where you can actually get some takeaways that you can apply to your organization based on the inspiration from this case study and this story. Okay, so if you want to, we're going to start with foundation, and then we're going to go into the other stuff. So to build the foundation, it's important to understand the organization behind all of this. How many people are familiar with Be The Match? Wow, that's amazing, that's awesome. So I think there's some that didn't put their hands up, so I'll tell you a little bit about it in a second. Out of those that are familiar with Be The Match, how many happen to be on the registry? Yeah. Now, there's more people that are kind of like, okay, what is this? Is this a dating site? What are we talking about here? So while they're figuring that out, I'll just kind of tell you what Be The Match is. So first of all, we're just 2 blocks down the street, right by the light rail. It's a beautiful building. But Be The Match is an organization that saves lives through cellular therapy. So that's kind of our mission, but that still doesn't really tell you what Be The Match is. So what we do in kind of layman's terms is for any patients that are battling with blood cancers like leukemia or blood diseases like sickle cell or other diseases, what we do as an organization is we are the registry of people like us that join the National Bone Marrow Registry with Be The Match, and in hopes that our information, our body, what's inside of us, is a perfect match for a patient that's in need of a transplant. All right. This looks like a Tesla key. It's very fancy. All right, I'll try in a second. It's not working. It's okay. I can cue you guys. It's totally fine. No, it's no big deal. So if we go back to the Be The Match screen. So what we do is we have a registry of millions of people, and we work to match people up to patients that need a transplant. The reason why is because most people that have family members, only 30% of the time they have a perfect match in their family. So 70% of the time they have to go to the National Registry, which is what we do. So our goal as an organization is to get more people, more diversity, more people in general to join the registry, because if we get more people that are willing to donate their stem cells or marrow, we're able to save more lives. So we're a life-saving organization, which is great, and that's a big part of what we do. So now that you know that, the other piece of this story is Chris. Chris was a searching patient. The story behind him is he had leukemia when he was a child. He was able to recover and live a fairly healthy, normal life until October of last year when he was re-diagnosed with leukemia. And the doctor at the time told him that he only had a year to live. And in that year, if he could find a match through the Be the Match registry, there's a chance he might be able to survive, but otherwise they gave him a year to live. And so obviously, you know, Chris, on his mind, he was afraid of not being able to experience the things that he wants to in life. And so the next thing that happened was the start of some pretty inspirational stuff. So Chris, fortunately, has a friend named Dylan who's been with him since they were kids. He's been by his side all through his life, best friends. And when Chris got this news of him being re-diagnosed, Dylan left school, went back to his side, and said, hey, if you have this diagnosis, let's not just let that be what it is. Let's do something about it. And what they decided to do was create a bucket list. Hundreds of things on their bucket list, things that they wanted to do in this year time, all the while waiting to see if they could find a perfect match for him on the registry. They wanted to make sure that they could live his life to the fullest. And so, they had a lot of things on the bucket list. One of them was something as simple as walking helping an old lady across the street. And typically this is a very nice gesture, but the lady that experienced this was scared out of her mind because there was cameras everywhere because they were documenting everything that they were doing. So she was a little taken aback by it, but she still got across the street safely. So that's good. But there's other things like lifting weights with the rock and just like crazy things all over the place. One of those things, as you can see here, was they wanted to set a world record of some sorts. And we were working with them, supporting their cause, their bucket list. We brought up the idea of setting a world record for the most amount of registry members to join the registry within a 24-hour period. So the previous record was around 2,000 something, and they wanted to beat that record within 24 hours. So we decided to partner with them on that. We were going to target March 1st for this record-setting day. And this was one piece, so kind of shelve that for a second, thinking about that record-setting day. In the same time, or around the same time, in January, they launched Lemons for Leukemia. How many people are familiar with Lemons for Leukemia? Good handful of you. You're going to all know about it by the end of this. And that was sort of building off of when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, you make something good out of it. So when life gives you cancer, let's do something positive, make something good out of it. Hence the bucket list, hence this campaign. So if you transition one more time. So the Lemons for Leukemia campaign was basically this. Talk about the importance of joining the registry. It's kind of think of like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge where you raise awareness, you do the challenge, and then you challenge 3 other people or organizations. So number 2, make lemonade in the most creative way possible was kind of their rule. And then 3, challenge different organizations and people. So that's the foundation of what we're going to talk about and kind of what happened from all of this. So now if you go again, next we're going to talk about the Casey effect. And if you don't know what Casey is, you will in a second, but this is essentially around social listening. Okay. So while Lemons for Leukemia was happening, this is kind of how we felt as an organization. We wanted this to take off. We wanted this viral campaign to happen. Yeah, some fans, okay, this is good. You either know what this is or you don't. So, but it still is how we felt. We plugged Lemons for Leukemia into our social listening. But I'll kind of stand up here and let you know that I was one of maybe a handful of people in the marketing team. I felt strongly that this campaign was not going to take off because the campaign itself was too complicated. And as we know in the social media space, you got to keep things simple. And so the whole, making lemonade in the most creative way possible seemed very challenging for something to go viral because you have to kind of pause and think about, how can I do this? What can I do? So there was a few organizations and people that did do the challenge for the first month or month and a half. There was a person that put lemons in a bucket with a bunch of dynamite and blew it up and then drank the juice. I'm sure it didn't taste very good, but that was super creative. But how many of us are going to think that creative? Or I don't even have dynamite. So there's all these challenges. So that's how we felt until February 20th, a day that I will never forget. because something happened on the internet that just blew our mind. So I'm going to show you this video in a second, but before I do that, how many of you have heard of Casey Neistat? Okay, it's kind of what I expect, about half of you. So Casey Neistat is a YouTuber. He's got about 10 million or so subscribers. He's an entrepreneur, works in New York City, has a lot of loyal people that watch his videos, including myself. So I'm going to set the stage. I was in the kitchen doing dishes in the evening of the 20th, and I got a little notification on my phone that Casey posted a video. And I am disgustingly a fanboy of Casey, so I watched it right away while I was doing the dishes. And at the end of the video, this happened.
Oh, I don't like sour. Oh. I'd like to nominate Akilah Hughes, Elle Mills, and Peter McKinnon. That was disgusting. On a serious note, that is very important. Registering and making yourself available for a bone marrow transfer could save someone's life. You should go to bethematch.org and sign up. I did look at see that? I did it. I signed up. So even if you're not a part of this ridiculous challenge, I recommend you do the same. See you tomorrow or Monday or...
So I see this, and I think I didn't do the dishes that night. I think I left the kitchen at that point. We emailed the team. Some of the team already had seen the video too. We knew that we needed to meet the next day. Because if you notice, so he has roughly 10 million subscribers at the time. And if you want to advance, he challenged 3 other people, and their YouTube channels are up and coming. One of them has about 1 million subscribers, but in total, this is about close to 13 million people that are part of just that video with the challenge. And as you remember from the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, a lot of people that got challenged will do the challenge and then challenge more people. So the difference with this is, first of all, if you noticed, he didn't put lemons in a bucket of dynamite or do something super creative. He just went all out and just bit into a lemon. So he was the start of simplifying the challenge. So that was win number 1. The internet is now simplifying this challenge. This is going to take off. On top of that, he's challenged 3 other YouTube influencers that are obviously going to do the challenge, and they're going to challenge other people. So we knew this was the start of something big. So we decided, in the next morning we met as a team, literally at 8 or 9 in the morning. We started to talk about this as an organization, what we can do, and we knew we needed to act fast. By the way, on this February 20th date, we didn't at the time know if we were going to tie what's happening with Lemons for Leukemia to the record-setting day. We had a separate campaign we were working on for the record-setting day. So what we decided to do, if you go to the next slide, 3 days later, we ended up putting out this tweet that you saw in the beginning of this presentation. But I'm going to dissect kind of how this tweet and who we challenged came about. So 3 days later, going back to that second day or that first day after we saw this video, we met as a team. We talked about, we're going to do a video on our own as well, because Lemons for Leukemia is going to take off now. It was still in its infancy stage, but we knew something was going to happen. So we started to kind of ideate around organizations and people that were tied to our mission. So of course, we always talk in organizations, if you can find people that are advocates for your product or service, or people that are tied to your mission, and leverage them, that's the best. So if we look through this, we notice that you're not going to really recognize the first handle, but it's a division of Love Your Melon. So for obvious reasons, they're tied to our mission. It was the Ohio division. Robin Roberts with Good Morning America. So Robin Roberts has a personal tie to our mission. She's a survivor, and she's a very, very big fan of Be the Match and supporter. We've worked with her in the past, and Good Morning America has supported us as well. And then, again, you can't tell by the handle, but Matt Caesar with the Padres, a donor that saved someone's life many years ago. So we knew these would be individuals, all different types of individuals, different types of industries, organizations. We would challenge them. And then we put together...
Welcome to Cold Minneapolis. We are here at the Be the Match facility, and we are excited to take on the Lemons for Leukemia Challenge. Woo-hoo!
On March 1st, Be The Match will support Chris and Dylan's bucket list item number 4 of setting a world record for the most marrow donors added to the Be The Match registry in 24 hours. Learn how you can directly impact this mission by going to bethematch.org/world-record.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, big lemonade.
We challenge the following people and organizations. Love Your Melon, specifically the University of Ohio campus crew.
Yep, and Robin Roberts and the entire Good Morning America crew.
And Matt Caesar from the San Diego Padres.
So we do have one of the stars of that video. Lauren is sitting in the audience right now. She's gonna be here to sign autographs. If you want to raise your hand, it's just, just really, really honored to have you here with us. I don't call myself one of those people because I just embarrass the community usually with any time I'm in a video. But so there were obvious barriers to making this happen within 3 days, right? So to be able to be that fast, to produce a video, to kind of know who we're going to be challenging, all these things, there was a lot of steps in the process. And this is one of those things that I think, us as an audience, we can relate to. So we went away from the process. Typically if we're going to make a video, we work with our, creative team, our design team, and we submit a request. And this would have been a high priority, but it likely wouldn't have been done within 24 hours. There would have been meetings to talk about it, storyboarding, all this stuff. We didn't have time for that. So we knew we couldn't do that. And like I said, we didn't have the time. So we're thinking, if this somehow could correlate to the record-setting day and this somehow does end up doing what we're hypothesizing of taking off, then we need to do something now because March 1st is right around the corner. So we knew we had to be quick. And, when we were in these meetings, we were talking about, well, we should say this and this in the video, and we should really tell a little bit more about Chris and Dylan's story. And we had to push back on that because the video needed to be about the challenge and getting the people out there and keeping it under a minute. And that was very hard to do. It's always hard to have a video under a minute. So we had to kind of, communicate that, push back a little bit. And it really wasn't too much of a battle because we kind of all got it. We knew we had to do something that was innovative and creative. And then resources. So, at the end of the day, I think my boss, Melissa, I think she was coordinating logistics in the building to do, I don't know, like setting up time for people to come down or to, like later on when we ended up being on Good Morning America, setting up that, like we pulled whatever we could for resources to make sure something happened that we needed to happen. So I think it's important to, be flexible, kind of set aside your core job and do whatever it takes when you have opportunities like this. So basically the point here is to keep it simple. No matter what you're doing, if it's crazy things like this that you want to contribute to the virility of something, keep it simple. I'm a very positive person, so I didn't put the last S in there because usually it's...
For a challenge? You guys up for a challenge? What you got? Because I've been challenged.
Yeah. There we go. All right, so then resources were the last thing. We had a person that does do video work for us, and we also had me. I've done some videos in the past just to create content, but we're by no means like full-out videographers, and we weren't going to obviously hire an agency because we didn't have time or resources for that. So between the two of us, TP, my colleague, helped with the camera. We did this in one take intentionally, so we didn't have much to edit, and that forced us just to get it, right the first time. Lauren and I did practice earlier that morning to make sure we sounded smart, which wasn't a problem for her, but was a problem for me. So we figured it all out. And so what happened, what was it like? So the next day, or that day that we tweeted out this tweet, Robin Roberts tweeted back at us, and she said, "Challenge accepted." This was like within minutes. Our marketing team was the loudest it's ever been at that point. I was almost standing up on the desk. People were screaming. It was just crazy. It was awesome. And then we did a quick response video that was silly. It was just intended for Robin. You'll see that in a second. Something happened there. And then I think like the next day, on air, on national TV, this happened.
For a challenge? Guys up for a
Always.
challenge?
What you got?
Because I've been challenged, you all have been challenged, you have been challenged too. It's coming from Be the Match. It's called Lemons for Leukemia. Asking everyone everywhere to, yes, suck it up for Be the Match. They're trying to set a record for most donors added in a 24-hour period. You know, I can't step away from a challenge. It came via Twitter, and when I said, I'm in, challenge accepted, my good friends from Be the Match had a pretty hilarious response to that. So we want all of you to join us on Thursday where we'll take part in,
That's right. That was the
in the
response
chip.
right there.
We're gonna wait till Thursday.
We're going to wait until Thursday, but we're going to get people all around.
Just take a bite out of it now.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
well, I don't want, but it won't count now. Oh.
Bad decision. Woo.
I need one that doesn't have mold.
We're going to wait till Thursday. Don't do what I just did, George. Not a
I'm
smart
not. Mine's
move.
moldy. I'm not doing it.
But you know what?
You guys are really not selling this challenge.
No. We are selling this challenge because it's a fantastic thing. I saw them challenge you, and they said that you're Robin Roberts and the crew at GMA, and when you accept it, then we gladly are in with you.
Yeah, all right.
You do it, we're in.
Okay, next Thursday, no mold on
No
yours.
mold on Thursday.
No mold on Thursday.
But in this little pre-thing I did, be prepared. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, you got the skin.
Oh, George, it was not smart. But everybody.
So this is, I think, if I remember correctly, this is how we realized that Good Morning America as a channel, as a network, as a show, was going to do the whole thing. Yeah, this is how we found out about it. By the way, we had pitched the record-setting day and with our contacts at Good Morning America before, and they were kind of lukewarm to it. They didn't know if it would fit into some of the things that they were working on and if the timing would work. So calling them out on Twitter with this challenge and the Lemons for Leukemia thing, like these were things that made things interesting. It's like this could be really interesting to actually make a whole segment about this. So this happened, I think it was Monday or Friday. I don't remember, it was one of those. It was one of those days. It was like literally a handful of days before March 1st. So our PR team gets together and decides, okay, we're gonna send a couple, Kate and Lauren from our PR team out to New York City because they wanted to take over Times Square and Be the Match there with lemonade stands. They wanted to have a camera crew out here in Minneapolis to cover our team and doing Lemon Challenge all at the same time, and then a camera crew out in California to cover where Chris and Dylan are and to film them and have them tell their story. Amazing. We were obviously not saying no to this. Meanwhile, that's going on, and then this is great, so we know this is working, but the internet was still happening. I don't know how many people know, but the internet doesn't stop. So while some of this is tied to Good Morning America and others are tied strictly to YouTube, does anyone know who this person is? It's not me, by the way. It looks like me. It's The Rock, right? So check this out.
The idea is to get as many people as possible to become donors to the National Bone Marrow Registry. And all you got to do is just eat a lemon. So here it is. I just happen to have a cool-ass knife in a lemon, and I'm just going to eat it like this. No, I'm not. That's too dangerous. Here we go. I'm going to eat it. All right, this is a lemon. And you know what? Here's the thing. It's for a great cause, Lemons for Leukemia. Why eat an amazing-tasting orange or grape when you can eat an awful-tasting lemon?
Yeah, so he posted that on his Facebook page. It got millions of views. Obviously, from a community management standpoint, we were all over that. Anytime there was anyone asking a question about Be the Match, we were there on top of it. That was awesome. And then does anyone know this next person? Anyone can shout out the name? Whoa. Keep going. Yay! One person knows who this is. But before you go to the video, his video was unique. My team that's here with me knows what we're going to show. So he went back to the original state of this challenge and did find a very creative way to make lemonade. And here you go.
Oh my gosh! That just went straight into your mouth!
What on my nose? In my eyes?
Oh my word! That works better than I thought!
I told you it was a good idea. Ow, my eyes, my nose. Maybe I'll do the important part of this in a minute. Just let me wash my face. Thank you for the nomination. This is something that's important, so I'm glad I was able to do it. It is Lemons for Leukemia. People with blood diseases like leukemia, oftentimes a bone marrow transplant can be the cure. It's hard to find someone who has an exact match. There has to be a lot of genetics that come together and match up for someone to be a bone marrow donor that matches the person in need. So I'm leaving all the links at the top of the description here. Go look into it. See if you can help out. If not, continue to spread the Lemons for Leukemia, raise awareness. This is a good thing. I love these things.
All right, so before we go to the next one, I just want to say that this is a proud moment for so many reasons. We've never had anyone advocate for Be the Match with lemon chunks on their face. So that was a big win for us. We never expected that. It wasn't part of our goals as a marketing department, but it worked. The other thing that, if you notice, he sounds like a spokesperson for Be the Match in the most authentic way, right? Like he's saying things that usually don't come out of his mouth because he's usually talking about gaming and having fun and skateboarding, and all of a sudden he sounds like he's someone that's known about Be the Match and has been part of the organization for a while. There's a reason for that, and another amazing, amazing celebrity is in the audience today, Kate McDermott. She's also not gonna raise her hand, I'm sure, but that's the PR team, Lauren and Kate. And the reason why I bring that up is because this is kind of foresight into what I'm going to talk about later on with PR being a part of this process. So when we saw people getting challenged on YouTube, they would tell us who they wanted to challenge, and so we would have foresight into people that were going to be doing the challenge. So social media, social listening, we would provide that information to our PR team. Kate would take that information and she would use the contact us information that Sean Duras and other YouTubers had on their channel. She'd reach out to them and say, hey, we saw that you were challenged for Lemons for Leukemia. We're really excited for you. Here are some talking points, some things about Be the Match that you may not be able to find on our website. Feel free to use these. Reach out to us if we can help support you or provide you with anything in addition, something like that. He did that and he responded back to her right away, super nice email saying, thank you so much, I'm totally gonna do this. And so that was the outcome. So I just wanna, this is foresight again, but PR and social are very much connected. And so much so that our boss is here as well, and our boss manages PR and social as a unit. So keep that in mind, because I think this is something, whenever I'm at social media conferences or speaking, I never hear anyone talk about PR. I don't know why. They're actually really nice people. They're smart. They do a lot of great things. So keep that in mind. Okay, last video. Who knows who this is? You do? Well, say it. All right. So this is more of a younger generation thing. So I typically don't know people like this, but I met Elle Mills through the YouTubes, through this challenge, and she's another creator on YouTube that's up and coming big time. She's super creative. And so here was her, and you notice that Casey Neistat challenged her, by the way. So here's the video.
I'd like to nominate Akila Hughes, Elle Mills, and Peter McKinnon.
So there's about 40 more minutes of that. No, I'm just kidding. It's like a few more minutes, but yeah. So there was so many. There's hundreds of videos like this. The interesting thing was Casey's a creator on YouTube, and so he nominated a bunch of creators who nominated more creators, and so they're super creative with this stuff, which was great because here we are having user-generated content that is stuff like we never could imagine having tied to our brand, and yet it was. So while the Good Morning America thing was bubbling up, thousands joined. We're joining constantly through this viral challenge that continued to go viral. And then, at the end of the day, this happened.
Never did something so sour turn into something so sweet. All to set the world record for the most donors to sign up for Be the Match in 24 hours. And boy, people from California to here in Times Square, those two young men, Chris He has leukemia, his friend Dylan was out in Times Square, and all to raise awareness about the need for donors. And of course, we kind of joined the fun too. Okay, we got to show George because we're going to have to wait for the year-ender for that. The biggest news of all, you did it. You set the world record when nearly 3,500 people signed up for the Be the Match registry, stepping up to save lives. So thank you for that. And what we remember, because it was Chris, his idea, and he wanted to set a world record. That was part of his bucket list. So we're glad that we could help out, and everybody who took part.
Yeah, so it worked. Obviously, there's a lot more that happened that day. We were all really excited. We were here at 6 in the morning to be part of the filming with the camera crew, because obviously this is a morning show, so that was interesting. And in California, you can imagine it was even more interesting for them. It was really early in the morning. But it was just surreal to see the amount of traffic that we got that day. So that is the Casey effect. And now, if we go into what I kind of gave some foresight into before, the PR and YouTube kind of situation, this is sort of the final chapter of really what happened next. Okay, one last question. How many people are familiar with Good Mythical Morning? Bless you. A few people, okay. So I wasn't as well, but this is a channel with millions, like over tens of millions of subscribers. They do a show. It's funny. They cover a lot of different things. And so what happened here was one of the bucket list items that Chris and Dylan had was to be on this show on YouTube. And here they are. They're on the show in the background, and the hosts of the show are doing the swab. This is how you join the registry, by the way. You sign up online. You get a kit in the mail. You swab your cheeks, put that back in the kit. It goes to our lab, and then you're in the registry. So that's because you're going to do that, obviously, after this. So I just want to let you know. But anyway, PR pitched in January. So Kate, again, reached out to the YouTube channel, reached out to them, pitched, and they accepted. They said, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to have them on the show in February, and we're going to air it soon after that. So again, PR provided them with talking points. They made sure they had the swab kit on hand for the filming, and so they can actually go through and show their audience the process. And this aired, if you notice, March 5th, 4 days after the record-setting day of Good Morning America. Hit it one more time. Yeah, another record was set from this one YouTube video. So keep in mind, a few days before, we were on national TV. Lemons for Leukemia is happening. All of that set a new record for us. This video in the morning, we're noticing registrations coming in. We are watching Google Analytics. We're like, this is a little bit more active than normal, and then we started to see tweets come in about Good Mythical Morning, watching the show, so we quickly put it together that the show aired, and this is what happened. Purely organic, no paid, and really this was all in their hands. They did this in their own terms. So that was amazing, and I just want to emphasize how valuable PR works and can work in the social media space as well. I mean, right now, that's our process. Anytime we identify a potential influencer, they go straight over to the PR team for them to do some outreach and see if we can give them some talking points if they want to work with us. If they do want to work with us, and there's going to be maybe some content that we can work with them to create, then yeah, we loop in the social media team to support that. We loop in other people from a creative standpoint, but ultimately PR is doing a lot of that legwork. So how many people currently in the social media space work with PR pretty closely? There's a few hands, so that's good, but we got to see more hands come up, I think, from that. So from a recap standpoint, there's 3 things that I want you to take away from this. You can go ahead. The first one is obviously leverage social listening. So like I mentioned, when we knew Lemons for Leukemia was going to start, we put it into our social listening. But in addition to this, I say make calculated predictions. Keep in mind, our original prediction, my personal prediction, was that this was not going to work. Lemons for Leukemia was not going to work because it was too complicated, right? And then what ended up happening is the internet simplified the process. Casey Neistat effect happened. And so no matter how many years we've been doing this, we have our best practices, but just know that, things can happen unexpectedly. And I think ultimately the other piece that really made this work is obviously Chris's story. And that just really pulled at the heartstrings. So that's one thing. And then also, as I mentioned, keep it simple. Complicated social doesn't work. It's very noisy on social. attention span's super low these days, so make sure that you keep your content as snackable as it can be, as we hear a lot. And then finally, marry PR with social. We're like a big family in that row over there. PR and social is awesome. So that way we can better position those influencers and such. And then finally, you remember Chris. So I am just honored to be standing up here to give you an update on Chris on behalf of Be The Match. So in May, he found a perfect match in the registry, and he's gone through transplant and is now going through recovery. So it's a really happy ending to an awesome viral post, and there continues to be every once in a while people that will do the challenge, kind of carrying on that legacy for Chris and others that are searching as well. So with that, I want to thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
We have some time for questions for Ryan. Raise your hand. I'll come to you with a microphone.
Question? I can just.
Well, thank you being sort of my middle name. What, if anything, did you do for Robin Roberts for getting this ball rolling?
What did we do for her? So, oh gosh, yeah, I mean, we definitely gave her lemons, right? We definitely, no, we gave her cookies. Cookies, yeah, we actually did. Yeah, we gave her cookies. And then, I mean, honestly, her story is super inspirational too. So just anytime that we can give her the stage on the Be The Match stage to tell her story, there are so many people that are inspired by her story alone. So we've done that many a times. And she also presented an award not too long ago at a soiree that we did in New York City. So we've continued to partner with her. She's just a delight to work with. I mean, how can anyone not like the lady? She's powerful. Yeah, good question. What else? Back.
It's on.
I loved all of it. So DJ from Secure Financial, I think a lot of brands would be really are envious that you have a lot of influencers that just kind of jump on. So my question is, what type of safety did you put in place? Thank you. Did you put in place when you saw that these folks jumped in the conversation? Did you, contracts, there's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done for influencers for a lot of brands. So I'm just wondering what strategy you took when you started seeing this momentum kick in.
Yeah, well, we're a nonprofit, so we had to remain pretty scrappy. And I mean, the good thing is we have a really solid team, a really smart team. So while we would love to have had twice the size to be able to kind of manage and maintain this, we remained scrappy. So we kind of pulled our own weight. Sometimes we were doing work that we don't typically do, but we didn't bring in additional resources, so to speak. We did also leverage. Had a couple interns at the time as well, and we leveraged them to do some support with tracking and all of that stuff, both on the PR and social side. Great question. Did that answer your question?
I would say brand reputation. So sometimes there's contracts put in place with an influencer where you can break it if something happens, right? Yeah. So thinking from that perspective, legal, it's.
Yeah, so we didn't do that. We kept it pretty authentic, because the other thing too is we didn't pay the influencers either. And so I think when you think about a lot of influencers, in order to work with them, you do have to pay. I think the benefit is based on the nature of the work that we do. There's a lot of influencers that are just genuinely interested in getting that awareness out. So I think for paid influencers, it's likely going to have to be a thing for obvious reasons. But the fact that they were already interested based on their own personal buy-in, and we reached out to them after they had that personal buy-in to give them support content, it was really, the ball was in their court. The interesting thing is most of the stuff was really positive. There really wasn't anything that was like a big issue out there that was posted on social, but if there ever was something that didn't really tie accurately to our brand, or someone just did the challenge just to bite into a lemon, didn't say anything about what the challenge was about, we simply just didn't engage with some of that content, so we didn't tie our brand identity to those posts. Yeah. What else?
I think we have time for one more. You want to just share?
Oh yeah, I didn't talk about that yet. This is my goose egg.
Okay, good. Let's do the one question, then you can talk about your goose egg.
Really nice job, loved it. Did you guys track the conversion from people that signed up versus when they sent in the kits?
So we absolutely always check on that every day. We get a report that shows kind of returns and all of that stuff. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over like the stats of it, but we already had that in place. So we were continuing to look at that pretty readily because we wanted to make sure that people weren't just signing up to sign up, that they were actually following through. And the great thing about social is that when Good Mythical Morning happened, people were tweeting about joining and how they just signed up. But then give it, like a couple months later, they were talking about how they got their donor ID card, and they were kind of sharing that again. So we even saw it from a social media side that people were still committed, and we definitely have seen good numbers as far as tickets go. So for the sake of time, I just want to really quick mention that if you're looking for something that is in the evening, that's a really great event, and does not have bacon, which I don't know why you would look for that, but if you're looking for a good time, and we have a bash coming up on September 21st, all of you are invited. I'm literally going to put a tweet out in a second as Be The Match with the link too, but you can see it up at the top. It's an awesome party, it's a great cause, and it's great networking as well, so we would love to have all of you there too. But again, on behalf of all of us at Be The Match, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. We are going to bring up our next case study presenter, Mara Keller, social strategist at Fallon. Mara is a social strategist, does everything from digital strategy to content planning. Prior to Fallon, she worked at both B2C and B2B brands, including Honeywell, Kaiu Coffee, and 3D Systems. In her free time, she enjoys being active, figure skating, salsa dancing, yoga, and she's always up for a challenge. We are glad to have her here for this challenge, and the biggest might be if our clicker works. So we're going to see. Let's get her plugged in here. There you go. All right, give her a big round of applause, Mara Keller.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Mara. That was a wonderful intro, thank you, from Fallon. I'm here today to talk to you guys about one of our clients, Rita's, and two events that we did back-to-back in a single weekend for the Royal Wedding and the Billboard Music Awards. So, as I said, I'm Mara, I'm from Fallon, worked at Bolin before, another shop here in town. I've been in social and digital my entire career, so I'm super excited to be at Fallon this year and working on some of our awesome social clients. So, jumping right in, Rita's. Rita's is a margarita in a can. You guys might have seen this in the liquor store. We have a huge flavor bench of a ton of different super fun flavors. So Lime-A-Rita is probably the one that you guys would have seen the most, but this summer, thank you. But this summer, we are promoting our Pineapple Rita flavor, which you guys will see throughout this presentation. So as we were looking at 2018 and the campaign, we were looking across the category of alcohol brands, and what we noticed was all of the spokespeople for alcohol brands were men. And so Rita's being a brand that really speaks to women within the ages of 21 to 36, we realized that we had the opportunity to stand out from these male spokespeople and become a brand with a spokesperson that both men and women might actually care about. So then we took a look at our audience, and what we noticed about our audience is that these women in our demographic have a ton of social pressure on their shoulders. And so we wanted to be the antidote to that social pressure. So what we did was we created a badass lady gang of 3 old ladies named Rita's. And so these ladies represent this worry-free lifestyle. And the reason that we connected this back to this insight of the fact that all these young women have all this pressure on their shoulders is that in social and in culture, we see this kind of resurgence of old ladies in content, and the fact that these young women look up to them and really want to live that lifestyle. So you'll see a ton of comments about this on different funny videos where people are like, I can't wait to be an old lady and sit in my lawn chair all day and do whatever I want. So that's something that these people are really asking for, and so we wanted to show them through these women how to live that lifestyle. So these Ritas for us represent liberation from expectations, freedom from the cultural norms. They break stereotypes, and ultimately we want them to be epic role models. So meet the Ritas. So it's super fun. So this is basically the foundation of our campaign in 2018. So moving into the summer and activations that we wanted to do for our brand, we started to build this storyline about the fact that the Ritas just don't care, and we might break the rules sometimes. We might crash some parties that we're not invited to. So I have a video to show you guys that kind of summarizes both of the activations that we did, and then from there we'll dive into kind of how the planning process for this came about and what we learned from it.
The Ritas have had a busy spring, from throwing their own backyard festival to digitally crashing bachelorette parties. Turns out, they were just getting started. The Ritas' invite to the royal wedding must have gotten lost in the mail, but that's never stopped them before. Noticing Harry and Meghan hadn't coined a wedding hashtag, an absolute must in 2018, the Ritas gifted the royal couple one. The world took notice and started to play, so we invited the internet to use the Ritas' hashtag generator to get their own customized party hashtags. But what's a wedding without a few wedding crashers? The morning of the royal wedding, honorary Rita, Real Housewife Nene Leakes, took over the Rita's handle to live tweet the most talked about wedding of the century. As guests started to arrive, we couldn't help but notice something oddly familiar about the fashion choices. Where have we seen this before? Yep, that's it. The meme went viral. Thank you, Internet. As the last notes of Stand By Me filled the chapel, the Ritas got ready to do just that. Hacking culture and locking elbows with reality star DJ Pauly D on the red carpet at the Billboard Music Awards. Countless press mentions, thousands of likes, over 90 million impressions, and several Pineapple Ritas later, the Ritas were left with just one question. What are we doing next weekend?
So taking a step back from what we actually did into the social strategy behind this, our goals on social for Ritas are to, one, create what we call attractive energy, which is this idea of doing something in the world that shows our brand personality that attracts people back to us. And then we wanted to increase our share of voice on social, which is, increasing mentions of us, and then finally having engagement within our community. So first, for the royal wedding, we wanted to create this digital experience around this idea of the ladies crashing parties. In that video, you guys saw a little snippet of the fact that we had created this, what we call it, Lanachilla, and it's the antidote to Coachella. So we had kind of started this storyline in the very beginning of the summer about the fact that we don't go to Coachella, we sit in our backyard, we break the rules. And then we crashed bachelorette parties online. So we had started this kind of storyline of the fact that this is what we do. So that's kind of another case study in itself, but we're kind of jumping into the middle of this. So again, we wanted to make a full experience around this idea. And then on the day of, we had a Twitter takeover featuring Nene Leakes, who is a Real Housewife of Atlanta. And we'll talk a little bit more about why we worked with her and how that came about later. And then flipping over to Billboard Music Awards, which was the very next day, we wanted to continue this storyline that we had built up around the royal wedding about crashing parties and continue the storyline with the ladies actually inviting DJ Pauly D to be our date to the Billboard Music Awards. And then secondly, we took to Twitter that night and tweeted out our hot takes of the performances. So kind of talking about what we learned and at the same time what we did, we're going to start off with the royal wedding. So as Ryan mentioned about before, social listing tools are super important. So when we were starting to think about the royal wedding, it was very important for us to know where is this conversation taking place. So these are some examples from Crimson Hexagon. This first poll is from the entire month before the royal wedding, and you can see that 63% of the conversation is on Twitter. So that immediately tells us we don't need to be on Facebook, we shouldn't be doing anything on Instagram. That's not, central to our strategy, that we really need to be driving everything on Twitter, because that's where people are. And then during the actual day of, we set up this digital war room because of the way that our team is structured. So we have people from Fallon sitting in Minneapolis, we have people in LA, in New York, and then our clients were actually in Atlanta with Nini the day of. So we couldn't all be in a room together like a typical war room would be. So we had to all be on iMessage, on Slack, on WhatsApp, just pinging each other across the country. And so one of our people was on social listening. So this was their job during the royal wedding, and we were taking polls of what were people talking about in the moment. So we know that if Meghan and Harry are getting married and saying their vows at that moment, that's what people are talking about, that's what we need to be talking about as well, so that we're kind of intersecting that conversation with something that people actually care about and want to hear about. So then, as I mentioned before, this digital experience, we wanted to create something so that on the day of the royal wedding, it made sense why we were there. So we created this hashtag generator, which you can put in your surname and it'll give you a fun hashtag for your wedding or your bachelorette party. And we created one for the royal couple. And then we promoted that hashtag in the weeks leading up to the royal wedding. And a lot of people actually jumped on it and started using this hashtag, even though the main hashtag for the event is #royalwedding. So we did see an uptick in people using that, which was super cool. So we promoted that a few weeks in advance of the wedding, and we wanted it to also be something a little bit generous. So, we're promoting ourselves and the fact that we're talking about the royal wedding, and we wanted people to listen to us, but at the same time, this is something that consumers could actually take and use and enjoy for themselves. And then we also created a bunch of content leading up to the royal wedding, just talking about the fact that we were crashing the royal wedding and that our invite got lost in the mail. So we'll be there anyways, and we'll take to Twitter and we'll let you know what we think about it. So if anyone came to our page in the weeks leading up to the royal wedding, we would want people to understand what we were doing, and then on the day of the wedding, if they were scrolling through, we wanted them to be able to understand why we were here talking about it in the first place. So the royal wedding is an incredibly noisy event. I'm sure you guys saw every single brand was talking about the royal wedding. So we strategized around how are we going to make people interested in Ritas when they're sitting on their couch at 3 a.m. watching Meghan and Harry get married, and then also their Twitter feed is flooded from every other brand talking about the royal wedding. So we decided that the best way for us to be interesting during the royal wedding would be to partner with Real Housewife Nene Leakes. And she was a natural intersection for our brand because she is an internet character. People love her. There are so many memes and GIFs about her, but also she has this amazing kind of degaff attitude that is the attitude that we want to portray with our brand as well. So on the day of, we handed her the keys to our channel. She was sitting in a hotel room with our clients, just on her phone. She had full free reign, and we were obviously looking over it, but we really let her do her thing, which added a lot of authenticity to what was coming from our channel. So with any Twitter takeover, it's very important to let your fans know what's going on. It seems simple, but it's really important to set the tone. So what we ended up doing was having Nene post on her channel this announcement that she would be taking over the Rita's channel for the royal wedding and tweeting her hot takes. And then we whitelisted this so that we could put some paid behind it and have it reach all of her fans. And then we quote tweeted it, put it on our channel, and pinned it to our page so that if anyone came during the day of, they would understand who was speaking from our channel, because obviously it's a departure from what we would normally be doing. So we prepped and prepped and prepped for this real-time event. So we had all of this planned content. We had a bunch of polls and things that we knew we wanted to post. But then on the day of, it's obviously important to just be nimble. So as I mentioned, we had this digital war room set up where everyone had their job and someone was on social listening, someone was on posting, people were, looking at what Nini was saying, and we had creatives as well there to make any quick turn creative as we saw trends emerging. So it's kind of incredible what we were able to do being across the country. But the fact that we were able to do these things in real time made it much more interesting and much more relevant to what was actually going on people's screens. And so talking about collaborating in real time, in that case study video, you would have seen this tweet that we posted. One of our people found this person who had made this comparison between Arizona tea and her dress, and we were like, that looks surprisingly similar to our cans. So we created this in response to that, and it ended up, for lack of a better word, going semi-viral, but it ended up being included in a bunch of roundups of things that had happened during the royal wedding, and it was just something fun that we had found, and we didn't really expect anything from it. We just thought it was something fun to try, and it ended up really working. So I think the takeaway here is that social listening is key, and being nimble and being able to create things on a dime is really important. And then one thing that we learned in the moment was we had prepped all this content, and we had kind of leaned into the fact that Nini is a self-proclaimed shade queen, and we thought there was kind of this similarity in the fact that she calls herself a shade queen, and it's about the royal wedding. So, we wrote this, and we wanted to keep it in her voice, and so we said, which part of the royal wedding should I focus my shade on? And we didn't really think much of it. It was just something fun for people to respond to. But what ended up happening is that a bunch of people tacked onto this and were like, why are you throwing shade? If you're going to be here, you must be positive. This is someone's wedding. So, a little misstep, but nothing that really threw the whole day off. But I just wanted to share this because it was a learning that we had that we didn't know before, and it was important to be super positive around this entire event. Okay, so now I'm going to flip to Sunday. So we did this whole thing on the royal wedding. We woke up at 4 a.m. We did our war room, and then the very next day we got ready for the Billboard Music Awards. So again, another very noisy event, but this is where PR really had a great synergy with us, is that celebrity influence here was key for us. So instead of partnering with someone to take over our channel, what we did was we sent our ladies, the Ritas, and DJ Pauly D, who is a genuine Lime-A-Rita fan, like he loves Lime-A-Rita. We sent them to the Billboard Music Awards to walk down the red carpet. And PR worked with them, gave them this whole storyline of the fact that we invited DJ Pauly D to be our date. We're not his date. That was a very important point of it. And that we weren't exactly invited to the Billboard Music Awards, but we showed up anyways. And so the fact that we worked with him really helped us break through all of the noise of all the different celebrities that were also there the day of. And again, this strategy came from the PR team, so we played up the outfits and everything that we did because we knew that during this event and afterwards, what people are really interested in is the fashion. So we dressed them in these amazing Pineapple Rita themed outfits. They're super glitzy, super glam. We have DJ Pauly D in Rita's sneakers. So head to toe, they were repping the brand and ended up being included in all of these roundups for fashion that we ended up reusing in social as well. So I guess the takeaway here is understanding what the event is about and what people want to write about, and then playing to that. And then lastly, something kind of interesting that we did that I don't think we always think about is that in creating the event like this, we had to send people from our team to the Billboard Music Awards. So we sent a creative, and we had her capture her entire journey from New York down to Vegas and make an Instagram story just like any person would for the brand. So it was a really scrappy use of resources. We had her bring actual pineapples with her on the plane and pineapple Ritas. So she was creating stories as if she was the Ritas the entire time. So just a fun use of time, honestly. And so the results from this, again, we worked really closely with PR for this entire activation. We had 18.8 million impressions in PR with 8 pieces of coverage. And then for the Billboard Music Awards, because of all of those roundups for fashion, we ended up having an amazing amount of impressions for this as well, with 45 pieces of news coverage. And something really funny that we didn't know would happen. So when the Ritas were actually on the red carpet, they were doing an interview with Billboard Music Awards. The conversation for Ritas took off online because the BTS fans, the Korean boy band, loved them. We didn't know that. There was no way we could have known that. But it was just kind of an amazing thing that happened organically. So that is what I have for you guys today. So if you guys have questions, I'm super excited to answer them for you.
Thank you. It was really great to watch. You know, one of the things that your presentation made me want to do immediately is follow. I ran into a little hang-up. No, you require, and probably because of the fact that you've got an alcoholic product and you need to have people be respectful of certain age limits, which is a really big legal thing that you don't want to mess up. The problem is I'm not going to put my name, my birthday, or my birth year anywhere on social media. Nobody in this room knows my birthday. So,
You're 36.
oh, love Ryan. Okay, you get more points. So the trick is, what do you do to get the information you need to keep your message legal and yet somehow allow me to follow you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's something that we run into. So we can't engage with anyone who is under 21. So like in things like community management, we do have to either ask and just say like, hey, if you're not under the, like, can you let us know if you are? Like, we have to be really upfront about that because that is obviously really important for us. I don't think we've ever tried that, but maybe. Yeah, so that is something that we look at, and we do try and figure it out if we're doing community management, like even like looking at someone's profile. You know, there's no really good way to do it, but we try our best.
Other questions? Raise them up. Okay. I might have missed this running around, so forgive me if I did. What are your social listening tools of choice for this and just in general?
For sure. So Crimson Hexagon, they've been in the news a ton lately, but they're a real powerhouse, especially in the planning process. In real time, we even use things like TweetDeck, and then we're also just refreshing Twitter constantly.
Thanks.
I'm curious how you measure me back here. Conversion. Has Rita's seen an uptick in sales as a result of all of this activity? How are you measuring that success?
Sure. You know, I can't actually share any sort of sales data, but our goals on social really aren't conversions, so we don't really track it that way. Our intention on social is to be culturally relevant. It's to create this attractive energy and kind of grow brand love in that way. There are things that we do in some of our digital executions for conversion tracking through our e-commerce sites, but I guess to answer your question, on social, we don't do a ton of that, no.
Other questions? I have one more. Did you get much pushback from the client for some of these suggestions?
love
I mean,
it.
they're so creative and so out there, so.
The clients are totally on board with this whole idea of who the Ritas are, and since we're super rooted in the fact, like in our brand voice, it says DGAF. That is something written in there, and so since we're also aligned with the fact that this is who these people are, we kind of have this guiding light for us, and the clients were definitely on board.
Excellent. Well, let's give Mara a round of applause. Both Mara and Ryan will be around for additional questions, or you can hit them up on Twitter. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you next month on the 23rd.